Two. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of Dissecting Shakespeare and another episode of Dissecting King Lear. I'm your host, Jackie, from Washington, D.C., and I have three lovely humans with me today to dissect Act 1, Scene 4. I'll pass it on to you, Matthew. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Matthew J. Murray, and I'll be playing Kent. I'm going to pass it on to Haley.
Hello, my name is Haley Bayermeister, and I will be playing Fool, and I will pass it to Miranda.
I'm Miranda, and I'll be playing Goneril, and I'll pass it to Bruce.
Hi, I'm Bruce in Toronto, and tonight I'll be doing Albany and Oswald.
Excellent. Thank you so much, friends. Matthew, you'll also be playing the knight. Hey. As well as Kent. Beautiful. Who is a different human being. If you don't know what has happened before, well, check out the episodes before, friends, so that you can know what has happened from Act 1, Scene 1 to now, Act 1, Scene 4. And I feel like a lot has happened. I think once we're done with Act 1 and we start Act 2, then we'll give you a quick, here's a recap of Act 1 before we move on to Act 2. But for now, just watch the previous episodes. As always, our formula is we will act out the scene and then we'll talk about the scene. So sit back, relax, and we will begin momentarily Act 1, Scene 4. A hall in the same, aka in the Duke of Albany's palace. Alright. Enter Kent. Disguised.
If but as well I other accents borrow, that can my speech diffuse, my good intent may carry through itself to that full issue for which I raised my likeness. Now, banished Kent, if thou canst serve that where thou dost stand condemned, so may it come. Thy master, whom thou lovest, shall find thee full of labors.
Enter King Lear, knights, and attendants. Let me not stay a jot for dinner. Go get it ready. Exit an attendant. How now? What art thou?
A man, sir.
What dost thou profess? What wouldst thou with us?
I do profess to be no less than I seem, to serve him truly what that will put me in trust, to love him, that is honest, to converse with him that is wise, and says little, to fear judgment, to fight when I cannot choose, and to eat no fish.
What art thou?
A very honest-hearted fellow, and as poor as the king.
If thou be as poor for a subject as he is for a king, thou art poor enough. What wouldst thou?
Service.
Who wouldst thou serve?
You.
Dost thou know me, fellow?
No, sir, but you have that in your countenance which I find call master.
What's that?
Authority.
What services canst thou do?
I can keep honest counsel, ride, run, mar a curious tale in telling it, and deliver a plain message bluntly, that which ordinary men are fit for. I am qualified in, and the best of me is diligence.
How old art thou?
Not so young, sir, to love a woman for singing, nor, nor so old to dote on her for anything. I have years on my back 48.
Follow me. Thou shalt serve me. If I like thee no worse after dinner, I will not part from thee yet. Dinner! Ho, dinner! Where's my knave? My fool! Go you and call my fool hither. Exit an attendant, enter Oswald. You, sirrah, where's my daughter?
So please you.
What says the fellow there? Call the clock pole back. Exit a knight. Where's my fool ho? I think the world's asleep. Re-enter knight. How now? Where's that mongrel?
He says, my lord, your daughter is not well.
Why came not the slave back to me when I called him?
Sir, he answered me in the roundest manner. He would not.
He would not!
My lord, I know not what the matter is, but to my judgment, your highness is not entertained with that ceremonious affection as you were wont. There's a great abatement of kindness appears as well in the general dependence as in the duke himself also and your daughter.
Ha! Sayest thou so?
I beseech you, pardon me, my lord, if I be mistaken, for my duty cannot be silent when I think your highness wrong.
Thou but rememberest me of mine own conception. I have perceived a most faint neglect of late, which I have rather blamed as mine own jealous curiosity than as a very pretence and purpose of unkindness. I will look further into it. But where's my fool? I have not seen him this 2 days.
Since my young lady's going into France, sir, the fool have much pined away.
No more of that. I have noted it well. Go you, and tell my daughter I would speak with her. Go you, call hither my fool. Re-enter Oswald. Oh, you, sir, you. Come you hither, sir. Who am I, sir?
My lady's father.
My lady's father. My lord's name. Your whoreson dog, you slave, you cur!
I am none of these, my lord. I beseech your pardon.
Do you bandy looks with me, you rascal? Strike
I'll
me.
not be struck, my lord.
Nor tripped neither, you base football player.
Kent, tripping him up in his heels. I thank thee, fellow. Thou servest me, and I'll love thee.
Come, sir, arise away. I'll teach you differences. Away, away. If you will measure your blubberous length again, tarry but away. Go to, have you wisdom? So?
Kent pushes Oswald out. Now, my friendly knave, I thank thee. There's earnest of thy service. King Lear giving Kent money, and enter fool.
Let me hire him too. Here's my coxcomb.
Fool offering Kent his cap. How now, pretty knave? How dost thou?
Sirrah, you were best to take my coxcomb.
Why, fool?
Why, for taking one's part, that's out of favour. Nay, and thou canst not smile as the wind sits. Thou'lt catch a cold shortly. There, take my coxcomb. Why, this fellow has been banished 2 on Status, and did the 3rd a blessing against his will. If thou follow him, thou must needs wear my coxcomb. How now, nuncle? Would I had 2 coxcombs and 2 daughters.
Why, my boy?
If I gave them all my living, I'd keep my coxcombs myself. There's mine, beg another of thy daughters.
Take heed, sirrah, the whip.
Truth's a dog must to kennel, he must be whipped out. When lady the bratch may stand by the fire and stink.
A pestilent gal to me.
Sirrah, I'll teach thee a speech.
You.
Mark it, nuncle. Have more than thou showest. Speak less than thou knowest. Lend less thou owest. Ride more than thou goest. Learn more than thou trowest. Set less than thou throwest. Leave thy drink and thy whore, and keep in a door, and thou shalt have more than 2 tens to a score.
This is nothing, fool.
Then 'tis like the breath of an unfeed lawyer. You gave me nothing for it. Ha. Can you make no use of nothing, uncle?
Why, no, boy. Nothing can be made out of nothing.
Prithee, tell him so much the rent of his land comes to. He will not believe a fool.
Okay. Oh, a bitter fool!
Dost thou know the difference, my boy, between a bitter fool and a sweet fool?
No, lad, teach me.
That lord that counselled thee to give away thy land, come, place him here by me, do thou for him stand. The sweet and bitter fool will presently appear, the one in motley here, the other found out there.
Dost thou call me fool, boy?
All thy other titles thou hast given away, that thou was born with.
This is not altogether full, my lord.
Oh, no, faith, lords and great men will not let me be. Let me. If I had a monopoly out, they would have part in it. And ladies, too, they will not let me have all food to myself. No, they'll be snatching. Give me an egg, nuncle, and I'll give thee 2 crowns.
What 2 crowns shall they be?
Why, after I cut the egg in the middle and eat up the meat, the 2 crowns of the egg, when thou clovest thy crown in the middle and gavest away both parts, thou borest thy ass on thy back o'er the dirt. Thou little wit in thy bald crown, when thou gavest thy golden one away. If I speak like myself in this, let him be whipped that first finds it so. Fools had ne'er less wit in a year, for wise men are grown foppish. They know not how their wits to wear, their manners are so apish.
When were you wont to be so full of songs, sirrah?
I have used it, nuncle, ever since thou maddest thy daughters, thy mothers. For when thou gavest them the rod, and putst down thine own breeches, then they for sudden joy did weep, and I for sorrow sung that such a king should play bo peep and go the fools among. Prithee, nuncle, keep a schoolmaster that can teach thy fool to lie. I fain learn to lie.
And you lie, sirrah. We'll have you whipped.
I marvel what kin thou and thy daughters are. They'll have me whipped for speaking true. Thou'lt have me whipped for lying. And sometimes I am whipped for holding my peace. I had rather be any kind of thing than a fool, and yet I would not be thee, nuncle. Thou hast hard thy wit both sides, and left nothing in the middle. Here comes one of the pairings.
Enter Goneril. How now, daughter? What makes that frontlet on? Methinks you are too much of late in the frown.
Thou wast a pretty fellow when thou hadst no need to care for her frowning. Now thou art an old without a figure. I am better than thou art now. I am a fool. Thou art nothing.
Goneril?
Yes, forsooth, I will hold my tongue. So your face bides me, though you say nothing. Mum, he that keeps nor crust nor crumb, weary of all, shall want some.
Pointing to King Lear.
That's a shield, peace, God.
Not only, sir, this You're all licensed, fool. But other of your insolent retinue do hourly carp and quarrel, breaking forth in rank and not to be endured riots. Sir, I had thought, by making this well known unto you, to have found a safe redress, but now grow fearful, by what yourself too late have spoken done, that you protect this course, and put it on by your allowance, which if you should, the fault would not escape censure, nor the redresses sleep, which in the tender of a wholesome weal might in their working do you that offence, which else were shame, that then necessity would call discreet proceeding.
For you trow, nuncle, the hedge sparrow fed the cuckoo so long that it's had its head bit off by its young. So out went the candle, and we were left dumb.
Are you our daughter?
Come, sir. I would you would make use of that good wisdom, whereof I know you are fraught, and put away these dispositions that of late transform you from what you rightly are.
May not an ass know where the cart draws the horse? Whoop, jug! I love thee.
Doth any here know me? This is not Lear. Doth Lear walk thus, speak thus? Where are his eyes? Either his notion weakens, his discernings are lethargied. Ha! Waking? 'Tis not so. Who is it that can tell me who I am?
Lear's shadow.
I would learn that, for by the marks of sovereignty, knowledge, and reason I should be false persuaded I had daughters.
Which they will make an obedient father.
Your name, fair gentlewoman?
This admiration, sir, is much of the savor of your new other pranks. I do beseech you to understand my purposes aright. As you are old and reverend, you should be wise. But here you do keep 100 knights and squires, men so disordered, so debauched and bold, that this our court, infected with their manners, shows like a riotous inn. Epicureanism and lust make it more like a tavern or a brothel than a graced palace. The shame itself doth speak for instant remedy. Be then desired by her that else will take the thing she begs a little to disquantify your train. And the remainder that shall still depend to be such men as may besort your age and know themselves and you.
Darkness and devils! Saddle my horses! Call my train together! Degenerate bastard, I'll not trouble thee. Yet have I left a daughter.
You strike my people, and your disordered rabble make servants of their betters.
Enter Albany. Woe, that too late repents! Oh, sir, are you come? Is it your will? Speak, sir, prepare my horses. Ingratitude, thou marble-hearted fiend, more hideous when thou showest thee in a child than the sea monster.
Pray, sir, be patient.
To Goneril. Detested kite, thou liest! My train are men of choice and rarest parts, that all particulars of duty know, and in the most exact regard support the worships of their name. O most small fault, how ugly didst thou in Cordelia show, that like an engine wrenched my frame of nature from the fixed place, drew from heart all love, and added to the gall. O Lear! 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 Beat at this gate that let thy folly in, and thy dear judgment out. Go! Go, my people!
My lord, I am guiltless as I am ignorant of what hath moved you.
It may be so, my lord. Hear nature. Hear, dear goddess, hear! Suspend thy purpose if thou didst intend to make this creature fruitful. Into her womb convey sterility. Dry up in her the organs of increase, and from her delicate body never spring a babe to honor her. If she must teem, create a child of spleen, that it may live and be athwart this nature torment to her. Let it stamp wrinkles in her brow of youth, with cadent tears, fret channels in her cheeks, turn all her mother's pains and benefits to laughter and contempt, that she may feel how sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. Away! Away!
Now, gods that we adore, whereof comes this?
Never afflict yourself to know the cause, but let his disposition have that scope that dotage gives it.
Re-enter King Lear. What? 50 of my followers at a clap within a fortnight!
What's the matter, sir?
I'll tell thee. Sir Goneril. Life and death. I am ashamed that thou hast power to shake my manhood thus, that these hot tears which break from me perforce should make thee worth them. Blasts and fogs upon thee. The untented woundings of a father's curse pierce every sense about thee. Old fond eyes, beweep this cause again. I'll pluck ye out and cast you with the waters that you lose to temper clay. Yea, it is come to this. Let is be so. Yet have I left a daughter, who I am sure is kind and comfortable. When she shall hear this of thee, with her nails she'll flay thy wolvish visage. Thou shalt find that I'll resume the shape which thou dost think I have cast off forever. Thou shalt. I warrant thee! Exit. King Lear, Kent, and attendants.
Do you mark that, my lord?
I cannot be so partial, Goneril, to the great love I bear you.
Pray you, content. What, Oswald, home?
To the fool.
You, sir, more knave than fool, after your master.
Nuncle, Lear, nuncle, Lear, tarry and take the fool with thee. A fox, when one has caught her, and such a daughter should sure to the slaughter. If my cap would buy a halter, so the fool follows after.
Exit fool.
This man hath had good counsel 100 nights. 'Tis politic and safe to let him keep at point 100 nights. Yes, that. On every dream, each buzz, each fancy, each complaint, dislike, he may guard his dotage with their powers and hold our lives in mercy.
Well,
Oswald, I say.
Albany says.
Well, you may fear too far.
Safer trust than trust too far. Let me still take away the harms I fear, not fear still to be taken. I know his heart. What he hath uttered, I have writ my sister. If she sustain him and his 100 knights, when I have shown the unfitness.
Re-enter Oswald.
How now, Oswald? What, have you writ that letter to my sister?
Aye, madam.
Take you some company, and away to horse, inform her full of my particular fear, and thereto add such reasons of your own as may compact it more. Will get you gone, and hasten your return.
Exit Oswald.
Albany, no, my lord. This milky gentleness and course of yours, though I condemn not, yet under pardon, you are much more tasked for want of wisdom than praised for harmful mildness.
How far your eyes may pierce, I cannot tell. Striving to better, oft we mar what's well.
Well, nay, then.
Well, the event.
Exit all. And that was the end of Act 1, Scene 4. Thank you all, lovely actors and humans, for doing that. And now let's dive in. Let's dissect this scene from the beginning, from the top to the bottom. Whew, lots of emotions. What is happening? What is happening here? So we start with Kent, who's disguised. Um, and before we started this recording, we were talking about, Kent, and I played him last weekend with a Zoom group, and how Kent is ride or die. He's that ride or die person who, like, even though he's been banished by Lear, told to vacate the premises or die, he disguises himself and shows himself in front of the king. For what? For employment. Because he wants to work for him. What is everyone's thoughts on that?
I think he doesn't know any other thing than to be in cohorts with Lear, so it shocks him enough that he would do something like that. I really do. It's all he knows is like serving him, so finds a different way to do it under a disguise. And Lear's kind of going mad from the top of the show, so I feel like he could get away with a disguise and still be in with him.
So there's a moment, right, where Lear is like, wait, do I know you? Right? He's like, yes.
Scary too, because what if he really did go, wait, you're Kent, I know it. Yeah.
Right. He's like, I think I know you. And Kenneth would be like, no. You don't know me. I'm just a random servant.
I feel like I gotta admire the loyalty, you know? I mean, it makes me wonder, is he loyal to, is it a sort of like abstract code of loyalty, right? Where I'm think, okay, he's treated me terribly, but it doesn't matter because the kind of person I am is I'm gonna be loyal no matter what. Or is it a personal loyalty? Like Lear wasn't always like this,
Mm.
and I still believe that there's a good man in there. Um, and I don't know. I feel like loyalty is a big question for all the characters in this play, right? Like, how much loyalty do you owe?
Mm-hmm.
Um, does it matter
Yeah.
how Lear's behaving?
Yeah.
And
Well,
to me,
again,
it all. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
yeah, I just to pick up what Haley was saying a moment ago, I think this is kind of a two-way street here. Yes, I think in Kent's case, this has been his whole life. The Earl of Kent, service to Lear.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to continue with that. But after what he witnessed in the opening scene with Lear's rage against Cordelia, he realizes, Lear needs my help more than ever now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he asked the king to check his rashness, and one he didn't do it. So now Kent is going to help him check his rashness, as it were.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it makes me wonder if to Kent is Lear like a father? Is Lear his father figure and the one who acts in that sense? And is Kent
Mm-hmm.
like the only son that, son quote unquote that Lear has and kind of fulfills um that particular role in this play?
Mm-hmm.
A very sound thought for sure,
Mhm.
because he only has daughters. And yes, I agree with that. He could have been very fatherly to him. Kent's meant to be young, and yeah, so that makes sense. Sorry,
It's
I agreed with
no,
you.
no. It's just like thinking when you like that makes me suddenly wonder also because of course like you guys were just saying like part of the tension with the daughters and with Cordelia is that she's saying, well, daughters have to leave,
Mhm.
right? All of these daughters are leaving to go with their husbands who they're gonna owe more loyalty to. So then if Kent's standing in as this kind of symbolic son, here's the guy who stays.
Exactly. Exactly. That's so beautiful. Okay. And soon we go into the foolishness of what is happening at his oldest daughter's, Duke of Albany's place, where, King Lear feels like he's being disrespected, right? By his daughter. Like he came in with his knights, they're not being treated well. He's not getting the service that he usually gets or that he expects from his oldest daughter. And he's pissed.
And Oswald, like he comes in and out, kind of. respectful nature, I would say. Kind of,
Poor Oswald.
yeah. I guess he questions everything that Lear's doing. That does not go over well with him. But
I mean, Oswald is in a terrible situation, right? Because he's the steward, the servant of Goneril, and he is the messenger. And you know when they say about don't shoot the messenger, here everybody wants to shoot the messenger. Cad gets a shot at him, Lear gets a shot at him because they're like, "How dare you tell us what?" And it's he's in a terrible pickle because Goneril told him he has to tell them this, you know? And
I
so
love, yeah. I also love how like when Kent steps in and like helps him kind of rough him up and like trips him. Like it's just harking back to Kent's loyalty and trying to blend in, but also put a
oh
little
yeah.
towards Oswald as well, just to get in Lear's good graces and stay there. Yeah.
And you know, the beauty though is I don't think Ken does it actually to get into King Lear's good graces, but because
Mhm.
he also is like, how dare you say what to the king and treat him like this? And so he also like feels compelled to beat up Oswald with the king, and then the king's like, you are hired.
I like you. I like that.
I
Yes.
like you.
He could have showed his cards, which is, yeah. I just love
Yeah,
Kent.
he's
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
He's great. Um,
No,
yeah,
Lear
it's
was really dramatic signs of of loyalty.
there
Here's my
is.
speech. I will punch people for you.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I'll trip them like a kid in a schoolyard, even.
Right? Exactly. It's hilarious. I love it, but I feel very bad for Oswald. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Be a sort of loyalty towards Goneril because I mean these people that are out to like watch and protect the daughters, they've probably been set up a long ago, and this is Oswald's job for many years, you know.
Hmm. You know, it almost makes me think like if Oswald had been smarter, he would have said to King Lear, "Listen, this is Goneril has told me to tell you this. I don't want to tell you this. I think it's terrible. I really want you here and all of your knights. I want to give y'all like Holiday Inn treatment. I want to give you like St. Regis treatment, Hilton treatment." But Goneril said this, but he doesn't.
That would make it a very it'd be a different play, but very cool idea, yes.
Very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, I think Oswald here is being set up as a foil for Kent because Kent, as a servant, his service is totally freely given. He's come in disguise and it's all voluntary.
Hmm.
Whereas Oswald is basically a flunky. It's-
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a cool juxtaposition
Mhm.
of like what does it look like to serve when it is of your own free will versus
Mhm.
when it is your duty and you have no choice about it. Huh.
No, and another one of those, the person who's master of the flattering words as opposed to the blunt spoken honest fellow,
Mhm.
Hmm.
right? You know, I am none of these, I beseech your pardon, right? Oswald can say all of the polite language.
Hmm.
Um and and he can use it to be rude. Um and meanwhile Kent is saying like, "No, let's be straightforward about this. What kind of a man are you?"
Yup. Yes. And then enters the fool. What are y'all's thoughts on the fool? Why do we even need a fool? Why is the fool there?
I believe that he likes the fool, and the fool can speak in riddles to get away with maybe a slap in the face in a weird way. But at the same time, I mean, I know that what I know of is that the fool is warning that Lear that it was a bad idea to let the two daughters, Goneril and Regan, into power, which is almost shady towards everybody else, but I think that it is necessary. The fool is necessary because it's almost like Lear's subconscious. That's how I
Mm.
interpreted.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I like that. For me, I always see the fool actually as the same, other side of the coin of Kent, because they're both Lear's men, you know, and they're both brutally honest, but in very different ways. Fool likes to use, you know, comedy and riddles to hide his truth. Whereas Kent is like, yo, you're being wild. You're wilding out, Lear. Like he's just like straight, no chaser, like just vodka, nothing else. Like, let's go. Flames. Fool will be that, but he'll be like, ha ha, I'm joking, or am I? Type of situation.
Totally.
There's a moment where he interacts with Kent,
Mhm.
where I'm just like, oh, he sees the bullshit. I was just, and I thought that was very interesting. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's interesting that Kent, I'm like, did Kent not realize the fool saw through the BS? Is it just
Mhm.
at that moment that he's like, oh, wait, the fool's like me? Yeah, yeah, okay. The fool's an honest guy.
Mm, mm, mm.
I like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm tempted to say that the fool is not afraid to speak truth to power, except when you think about it. Lear, this is part of the big problem. Lear doesn't really have power left. He's got the title and he's got 100 knights with him, but that's it.
Yeah.
He delegated all his power back in Act One, Scene One,
Hmm.
gave it to his two daughters,
And their
and
husbands. Absolutely. And the fool is telling him this, being like, listen, you were foolish. Ha ha ha, play on words. For giving up all of your land. Now look what happens.
Like the egg speech, like cutting it down the middle. He's like, good job, because there's going to be at some point the two sides, Goneril's side and Reagan's side, and their respective husbands, respected husbands. Like they will butt heads eventually because twos aren't threes. They're bad. Why am I talking like the fucking fool? Sorry, excuse me. But you know what I mean? Yeah, I think that speech is totally about that. Like both parts, thou boys thy ass on their back, thy back over the dirt. You know, it's like,
Mm,
yeah, in thy bald crown, as in you took off your crown and split it in two. You messed up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's so much. Like, I love the Fool's words because there's so much like wisdom. He says, for example, I have used it, nuncle, ever since thou madest thy daughters thy mothers. Ooh, you made your daughters mothers. Okay, you gave them power. Exactly. Like you gave away for when thou gavest them the rod, right? Like you gave them the power, so you have none left. Uh, so wise, so sad. Oh man.
He has some disses towards them. The wise men are grown foppish. They know not their wits to wear. Their manners are so apish.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, he disses Lear throughout, which is why Lear is like, "You're gonna get whipped, sir," and he keeps telling him, "You're gonna get whipped. I'm gonna whip you. Shut up." But at the same time, he's like, "Keep going, keep going. Tell me more."
Yeah, and I think the fool goes like, "I'm pretty sure they're gonna whip me before you do. I've said too much." And
Right,
then,
right, right, right. And I love that the fool stays even after Lear leaves. He stays to give one last word lashing to Goneril before he's like, "You're gonna get your comeuppance too. Bye." And I'm
I
out.
I
Who's
think
out?
that's so interesting too that the fool is sort of like, I mean, she says, "Oh, your terrible retinue who are all causing problems," right? But the person that we specifically see that she's mad about is the fool, right? Which I
Yes.
do think like is an interesting character point for her, right? That when she's talking about, oh, these men are disordered and debauched and bold and it's like a riotous inn, but the specific thing that we're seeing her get mad about is this fool is poking fun at my
yeah,
pretensions in telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of riot that's really threatening to her. Mhm.
Yes. Yes, I wonder how often has the fool throughout her life just poked her, with his words.
As soon as the personality begins
Yeah.
the child, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
like, I've never liked it. Yeah, you never know, right? I love
Yeah.
that. I mean, we're not doing Ray. Reagan's not in this scene, but it's interesting to think about how he watched them being raised.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Past. Which is
Yeah.
possibly why he tells the fool tells Lear, like, why would you trust them? Are you crazy? You know?
I mean, oh my gosh, like the other part where I really loved was when Lear is like, because his daughter comes in and says, Gonro comes, and it's like talking about all these things that she hates, she's not gonna stand for, she's, all of this, and he's like, who, who are you? Who am I? And then the fool comes real fast and he's like, oh, you're Lear's shadow. Boom!
Ooh. Yeah.
Like, no, you're not Lear. You are a a wisp of yourself of who you were. I'm like, oh my god.
The line, which will make an obedient father, like they're playing you so you're
Mhm.
obedient to what they want now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and the scene with Gonro is very interesting. Like, it always makes me think about how people talk about how men are not emotional. And in this play, from the jump, from Act 1, Scene 1, we see how emotional men are. King Lear being chiefest of the emotional ones. He's so full of so many emotions. And in this one scene, we see him go through everything almost, right? Through joy with Kent, through ire with the fool, and anger with Goneril, and sadness, and all of these things. And it's so much. I feel like he's holding onto so much within. It's tiring.
Mhm.
And it's honest. I think that's also part of what's interesting about him. I mean, like, you can actually see why Cordelia would have been his favorite, even though she's refusing to flatter him at the moment when he wants her to,
Yeah.
right? But like, yeah, like you were saying, like those emotions are overflowing, and they're all coming out exactly what he's thinking. He's like, right? I mean, he's like,
Mhm.
"Who are you? You know, who do you think you are? Who do you think I am?" Etc. Etc. And meanwhile, Goneril is the one who's holding everything inside because she clearly is furious,
Yeah.
right? But it's all getting couched in the very polite language and the
Mhm.
veiled threats, right?
Mhm.
Even when she has the power, she's reluctant to actually come out and say
Mhm.
what she's thinking.
Yeah.
Whereas with Lear, he's much more direct. Here is what
Mhm.
I'm feeling. Here is what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, would things have been different if Gonrol had been more honest and been like, "You're acting crazy, Dad. Like, I
Mhm.
don't I'm scared of you. This is why I'm treating you this way. Because one moment you're happy, the next moment you're sad, the next moment you're angry. Like, we don't know what's like I need to take care of myself and my people, and I can't rely on you anymore because I think you're crazy."
See, I think he'd hate it, but he'd respect it in a way that he can't respect her the way she is.
Yeah.
Um,
Very stubborn.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I know we're trying to
Yeah.
find qualities in Goneril, and that is like something where it's like, oh, I wish you would just talk to your
Yeah.
dad. But, it wouldn't be a Shakespeare.
Well, no, I think
Mhm.
there's still lots of qualities in Gonrel, though.
Mhm.
Even here, because it's understandable to me. A lot of things are understandable, like the 100 knights acting rowdily and
Yeah.
everything. You try to take care of 100 people in your
Yeah.
house. It's not easy, you
And
know?
Yeah.
of it all, who is the favorite? There's no way that there's
Yeah.
embedded
Yeah.
like disdain for the father for having a favorite. I can relate to that. I've got five. I'm not the favorite.
You're our favorite.
Yeah. 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 I think it's important not to lose sight of what Goneril's big issue is for her. The problem, it's not so much Lear himself, it's these 100 knights that she's claiming are being rowdy, but we don't really know who to believe because Lear is incensed that she would cast such slights on his followers. They're men of choice and rarest parts that all particulars of duty know. And the one knight who speaks early on in the scene seems very courtly and proper
Yes.
and gentlemanly. And so, who are we to believe about the behavior of these knights, Goneril or Lear?
I
Was it?
think both are probably right.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Haley, what were you saying?
Oh, I just said that's a great question.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're both right. Because let's be real, 100 men.
Yeah,
Again, just
yes.
imagine. And these are not just any men. These are men who like to fight, right? They're knights. They're not just common lords, right? If we were talking about 100
Well,
lords, maybe decorum. But 100 knights?
yeah. who would also have their own squires and servants with them. So, gosh,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about a lot
Even
of
more.
people under her roof. So, it,
Exactly. I'm sure that
it,
they're being rowdy and
it,
breaking things and doing all kinds of things that just happens naturally when there are a ton of people in your house.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. There's like no small character. Whoever would play the knight, right? I imagine them being outside the big door where all this is going down, and somebody's going, "No, you do it. You talk more diplomatically than us. We just want to drink beer. But you have to. One of us has to go. Go." And that's why he goes, and he's like, "All right, fine. You're right.
yeah,
Hello, I will talk in a like monotone,
yeah,
and, like, just like very
yeah,
neutral manner. I'm the best at that. All right, fine, I'll
yeah,
do it."
yeah,
Yeah.
I also
Yes.
think it's really
yeah.
interesting because, like, on the one hand, there's this sort of misrule versus order thing that you also get in like in something like Twelfth Night, right? Where it's like, okay, here's the suggestion, if we were to treat to trust Goneril, that they're sort of like making merry and having fun, and then Goneril coming in this force saying like, well, I'm not having it. I'm I'm done with this. Right. And then I think it's sort of an interesting question, like who do we want to side with as the audience there? But I think the other thing that's there that's sort of interesting is like that's what she says to Lear, but then after Lear goes away, what she says to her husband is, "Oh, it's not
Oh.
safe. Like, oh, it's safe to let him keep at point 100 nights.
Mm-hmm.
That on every dream, buzz, fancy, complaint, dislike, he may guard his doted with their powers and hold our lives in mercy." She actually like. Again, I think she's tricky, right? Because she says different things to different people, so what's
Yes.
the truth,
Thanks.
right?
Yeah.
Like, is she actually like just wants, is it hatred? Is it being power hungry? Is she actually frightened, or is she just saying that because she thinks it's what'll get her husband on board?
Hmm.
It's interesting, right?
And I think she does because, Albany is very interesting too because he comes in and he's like, "What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry, Lear. I don't know what's happening." And I calm down, like relax, like you don't have to rush out like this and go to, Regan's place. Um, because he's
Yeah.
not in on what's
Yeah.
going on with Goneril at all. And when he does ask her, like you're saying, like she gives him a version of the story that he's like, well, okay, but but I respect but I love
Yeah.
you. But he does say, okay, but of course my love is to you, firstly and foremostly. But
Totally. I
Yeah.
love what you said, Miranda, as well. Like, is it like, is she protecting like Lear by saying, should he have all of these things? Because she's
Yeah.
seeing her father kind of go mad, I guess, right? I just find that so interesting. Yeah. That whole speech is, when you reread it, I was like, oh, it's so rich. Mhm.
Yeah. Actually, if we look carefully at what Goneril says to Albany near the scene's end, okay,
Mhm.
uh, it's 100 nights. Tis politic and safe to let him keep point 100 nights. It's not. She's not there saying to Albany that the nights have been riotous. What she seems to be saying is, if they decide to get riotous, we could be in for a lot of trouble.
yeah,
Well,
And
and
Albany's made no reference to the knights creating a problem and
mhm.
being riotous. In fact, his last lines in this scene, "How far your eyes may pierce, I cannot tell," and then striving to better, off we mar that's well. He seems to be saying in retrospect, so you've decided to dismiss half of Lear's knights, this
And I
may mess up the situation even more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love those two lines. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, like wise. Again, he's like, you wanted to
Mm-hmm.
remedy a situation that hasn't happened yet that will probably make it worse.
what if he really likes this like new life where he gets these nights and he maybe goes and plays cards with them at night? He's like, what if there's like a
That would be
problem?
funny. He's
Yeah,
like drinking away with the nights. He's like, yes, party. I love the
Yeah.
party life.
background stories. He grew up poor and somehow they fell in love
Oh,
when they're
he's
in.
not
Yeah.
poor, Haley.
No, I know he's probably from some
Yeah.
house, but
Yeah, he's rich. He's
Yeah.
always been rich.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he didn't have friends
Yeah.
before, like he gained power or something, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
the juxtaposition. I mean, we will
Mm-hmm.
see in future scenes
Yeah.
the relationship between Regan and Cornwall, who are married,
Yeah.
versus Albany and
Yeah.
Goneril. And they're such different couples.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love this
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
different in the
Yeah.
partnership. Mhm.
One more thing we haven't mentioned yet, but I can't help resisting. It seems like a small item in the scene, but Oswald has been told by Goneril, get this letter written and take it to my sister. And actually,
Mhm,
as you move on into the play, we never get the text of this letter, but we can kind of piece it together.
mhm,
Uh, this letter is only one of all sorts of messages and what might be broadly called stage documents in the play.
mhm,
Think of when we first saw Edmund in Act One, Scene Two,
mhm.
and we have the map type of thing. In fact, depending on how you count them, there may be as many as 16 different sort of, stage documents in the play, letters, proclamations that are read out, and so on, more than any other play in the canon.
Mm.
I like to call this the epistolary pattern in King Lear. It's one of these small things in the play. It's kind of this tiny little undercurrent. It's never been gotten all that much attention for the scholars because there's so much, stuff that's bigger in the
Yeah.
play. The force of the personalities and the themes of justice and retribution and everything. But I don't want to do a spoiler, but particularly when we get later on into the play and the love triangle, the
Mhm.
two sisters and Edmund comes up. There's one letter in particular that is a key element in the resolution of things in the play.
You're right. Thank you, Bruce,
It's
for
yeah,
bringing that up. Yeah, it's
yeah.
true. All of the different letters are so
Mm-hmm.
imperative and important in driving the story, um, as well as enforcing and disrupting alliances, right? We saw with Edmund earlier, he uses a letter, right, to
Yeah,
wedge
yeah,
the relationship
yeah,
between Gloucester and Edgar.
yeah. And quite often these letters get mislaid. They wind up in the wrong hands.
Yeah,
Uh, no, whatever.
absolutely.
That unspoken story in the background, very cool to bring up. I love that.
Mhm.
Some of my favorite, I don't know, this is silly, but like some of my favorite video games, there's like, it's like RPG, like role play games, and they'll just be little letters, and sometimes you're like, I'm trying to defeat trolls, but like I think they're set there for the people that enjoy the side stories,
Mhm.
and I love that you brought that up just in general. It's very cool, and it's strange that scholars don't think about that enough.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also when you see it staged, it's not very like it.
yeah.
Yeah, cool if there
It's
was even
it's hard to hide drama. Yeah,
Mhm.
a letter gets handed off, but
yeah.
uh,
And it's like, oh, that's over with. Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, there's an emphasis on the significance. Okay, any last thoughts, y'all? I'm splitting the music, so because we're getting to the end of this episode.
yeah.
Any
Well,
last thoughts before we say goodbye?
well, final lines in the scene, Albany's well, the event. So lots more to come.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Haley, Matthew, Miranda, and Bruce, for playing with me and for dissecting this episode. And we hope that you all will keep watching and will come watch the next episode, Act 1, Scene 5. What happens next? Until then, arrivederci. Bye!